Hi, I'm Scott from Doors Done Right. In this video, we're going to be talking about the most commonly used fasteners in garage doors. We call this a hinge screw. It's a 3/4 inch sheet metal screw. It's designed to put hinges and some other parts onto doors where there already is a hole. There's a pre-drilled hole in the door. So this stuff here is all 7/16 drive, so you can use a 7/16 socket to drive this in. If you need to attach something to a door and there is no pre-drilled hole in the door, you would need to use this. We call these tech screws or self-tappers. They're drill and tap screws, so they have a drill bit in front that drills a hole and then taps the threads into the door or whatever metal you're going into, and then goes in. Again, 7/16 drive, use a 7/16 socket on this. And we actually use these a lot to drill pilot holes. So if you're just looking to drill a pilot hole in a piece of track, say for example, you need a hole right here in the track, we would use this. Drive it into there, drill your hole, because these are always new. The drill bits are always sharp. We would drill a hole in there, use it once, throw it away, and then you can use a drill bit or a step bit to go through there and widen the hole to the size you need. So even if it's pretty wide bit, like this is a 3/8 inch shank, you can use this to start the hole. Okay. These are great, but if you're going into something that's real thick, like even just a piece of angle iron, this is 13 gauge angle iron, putting these through, there's a good chance that this is going to break, okay? So there's a few different ways we can manage that. We can use a shorter screw with wider threads. Those seem to have a little bit more resilience when going through thick metal. All right, these will work through most stuff, but anything real thick, or if you're going through 2 layers of something, these can break. So we do have something called a Megatech. This is also a 7/16 drive, but the shank of this is actually 5/16, whereas this is a 1/4 inch. So it's thicker. These generally don't drill very well, okay? So we don't normally use these. Sometimes I will drill a hole with one of these, throw it away, and then use that hole and then let this finish the hole out to go in. These are going to be tougher if you're going through some pretty thick metal, okay? I have not seen these break yet. Then we get into wood lags. So these are going from metal into wood. So this is the most common. This is 1 5/8 inches. It's still a 7/16 drive, 7/16 socket you would use. It's a 5/16 shank, and you would use this to say screw the track into the jamb. Okay, this comes with doors. We don't actually buy these screws. And so if you get extras with the doors, which will happen, or if you use other screws, save these because we do not buy these, okay? We rely on getting a few extras with the doors, or sometimes we have to use a different screw and we don't use these, so we have them left over. We might call these 1.5 inch lags, just because it's a little easier than saying 1 5/8 inches. If you're going through a little bit of drywall, this is generally going to be used if you're going directly metal straight into wood, straight against wood. Like if we were trying to screw this to this, we can use this. If you're going through some drywall, you need a little extra bite, you're concerned, maybe you're hanging something from the ceiling, we buy and use 2 inch, okay? So all the other parameters are the same. It's still a 7/16 drive with a 5/16 shank. So 7/16 socket, but this gives you a little bit more bite. It's a little bit longer. We buy these and carry them. A real common one that we use is the 3 inch. This is good if you're going through some thick sheetrock on the ceiling. Like sometimes they do double 5/8 sheetrock on the ceiling. So you're ready going through a piece of metal that may be almost 1/8 inch, and then the 2 pieces of 5/8 inch sheetrock, and suddenly you're going through, before this even starts biting, you're going through somewhere in the neighborhood of, almost 1.5 inches. So you want the rest of that bite. It also helps, these help when you don't really know what you're going into. A lot of times when you're going into drywall, you don't know exactly where the studs are or if you're nailing the stud. The last wood lag that we normally use is a wood hinge lag. So this would attach a hinge like this to a wood garage door. Okay, the threads are coarser and wider apart, and you'll use these occasionally. This is not in the main hardware case, but this will attach, you could screw this into 1 3/8 thick wood doors. Okay, that's the thinnest wood door you'll really ever get. And this is, I believe this is 1 1/4 inches. So it leaves you plenty of room without poking out the front. The last thing that we use that is a 7/16 drive, commonly, are track bolts. All right, so these track bolts help you to piece the jam brackets. Okay, so this is a jam bracket to the pieces of track. All right, so these are 1/4 inch. It's a 1/4 inch drive. I'm sorry, not a 1/4 inch drive, a 7/16 drive still, but the shank is a 1/4 inch, okay? And you can screw that on. It's also used to attach other pieces of track together in different ways. So this piece right here is the track bolt. And we call these 7/16 nuts. Technically, they're 1/4 inch flange nuts. The flange on these, we only ever buy flange nuts. The flanges help you keep you from having to hold back on it with a wrench. So if you're screwing into this, and by the way, our tech screws do happen to take that nut. So if you happen to be screwing in with this will not spin on you because the serrated edges will grab onto the steel, and you don't have to hold it back with a wrench. It also keeps it from pulling away over time, so you don't need a lock washer or anything like that. Moving on to 1/2 inch drive stuff. So this is generally used when you're going into angle iron. So this angle iron here, you would use, if you're trying to connect 2 pieces of angle iron, pretty common stuff when you're installing the backs of doors or the backs of openers. Again, serrated flange nut. So we call these 1/2 inchers because you might say I need a 1/2 inch nut, or I need a 1/2 inch bolt, or I need some 1/2 inchers. That is not the technical name for them though. This is, the shank on here is 5/16. So this is technically a 5/16 serrated flange nut. Okay, so that's a super common thing that we use. Again, a 1/2 inch drive, use a 1/2 inch socket on it. This is an eye bolt. This holds extension spring. Extension springs are the springs that stretch out. Okay, the way we put these together is we put a nut on sort of backwards with the flange facing out. We put it onto our angle iron. We put a nut on the other end. And then we use our deep socket to screw these against each other. And that's a 1/2 inch. That's 1/2 inch. So most stuff that's going through angle iron, the bolt that you use to connect the back of the track for the garage door would be a 1/2 inch, one of these 1/2 inchers. Again, the shank is actually 5/16. So when you're ordering them, you order them as 5/16, but our common language is that these are 1/2 inch nuts and bolts. Anything connecting the opener to the angle iron, connecting the angle iron together, you would almost always use 1/2 inch stuff. Moving on to 9/16 drives, so you would use 9/16 socket on these. And these are just in a small range here, okay? We do use some smaller stuff and some bigger stuff occasionally, but this is 7/16, this is 8/16 or a 1/2, right? And this is 9/16. So we're basically going 7/16, 8/16, 9/16. We use some smaller stuff and some bigger stuff. So this is a pretty heavy duty nut and bolt. This is generally used for stuff having to do with springs. So when we're putting together, when we're mounting torsion springs, the type of springs that turn, we're going to use this stuff. This is a 3/8 inch shank. This is technically going to be called a 3/8 inch serrated flange nut. Okay, but we're going to call these 9/16. I need because that's the drive that you use. So this is a 9/16 bolt, 9/16 nut. In our terminology, when you're ordering, you need to talk about the shank size, which is 3/8. We do have, this is a carriage bolt, the 9/16 carriage bolt. It's very short. This one is designed to, it's used in a couple different spots, holding bearing plates in place and at the front of the tracks. Pretty much everything in the front of the tracks uses this. All right, and then moving on to stuff that is no drive or or a different type of drive. So we use 3/8 inch washers. Okay, the hole here is made to take a 3/8 inch shaft there. All right, these are super commonly used. We use them for a bunch of different things. You'll see that as you work. We have an S-hook here, so the S-hook holds the cable adjuster, which is where the cable attaches to on a extension spring system. So at the end of an extension spring system, which is the springs that stretch out, you're gonna end it off like this. Okay. This is how you end the cable in these cable adjusters. There are two holes that are closer together and a hole that's made further apart, bigger hole further away from the other two that takes the S-hook. So this is how you would end it. This will usually be a little bit longer. So that's a cable adjuster. This is an S-hook. This is a 3-inch construction screw. Anybody who's done construction is going to be familiar with these. These are good to put 2-bys together. So we use them to put the jambs here in place. A lot of times guys will use nail guns and stuff like that, but we don't really carry large nail guns. So you'll be using these. We do sometimes carry deck screws. These are a little bit cheaper than deck screws. Deck screws are coated. They're made to go into pressure treated lumber. Okay, most of the stuff we're dealing with is not pressure treated, so our construction screws are fine. It's good for just holding wood to other wood. We have 1/8 inch swaging sleeves, so all of our cable that we use is 1/8 inch. We will get some other size cables from manufacturers, but all the stuff that we carry is 1/8 inch, so the diameter of this is 1/8 inch. These are used to make loops in the cable. So you would do that basically. You want to try to nail the right size loop. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about this. There is a tool that will crimp this for you. We've had it over the years. We probably have 1 or 2 lying around somewhere, but generally the way I'm doing it is I'm hammering this down. I'm taking this and I'm hitting it with a hammer. You do need to do it against something hard. People's concrete floors in their garage is probably not the ideal place to do it because it's going to make a dent in it. I usually find a stone outside or something that doesn't really matter that's going to be okay. Hammer that down, hammer it flat, and that makes the loop on the end. So this is an 1/8 inch swaging sleeve, and this is an 1/8 inch swaging stop. So sometimes for certain uses, you're going to want this to hold something in place or hold the cable in place in something. So this is a swaging stop. Again, you're going to put this down, you're going to hammer it flat, and that's what you need to do. So this is the full set of the most commonly used fasteners. Okay, we do use other ones for sure. There's no doubt about it, but this covers everything you're going to have in your main hardware case and your secondary hardware case.